Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So, how's the tour been going so far?
Oh, it started off fantastic over in the UK with Skid Row.
Yeah.
14 or 15 shows, well attended every night, playing all the O2 academies and the forums.
Okay, that's great. Like big
And,
places.
and both bands are celebrating brand new records. Skid Row's new record's out, The Gang Is All Here.
Yeah.
Our new record's out now called Finer Than Sin.
Yeah.
And we started it off in the UK, worked our way through, and now we're here in Spain
Okay.
for 3 shows. And they've all been very well attended as well.
Yeah.
Fans are great. I love this country.
Yeah.
And I've been coming here for 30 years. And it doesn't change. People love hard rock and heavy metal out here. And they love pop music too. And I think we're a combination of all three.
Yeah, sure. I mean, power pop and hard rock. So it's a good place for that. Can you describe the new Enough's Enough album? Like I know how to describe an Enough's Enough album. I'm a fan myself, but can you describe it yourself?
It's an organic power pop record.
Okay.
That's not overproduced. Strong songs that are 3-4 minutes long. I'd like to believe it's my heroine love letter to the new generation. These are songs that I've written during the shutdown of our country. Had plenty of time. Made 3 albums in 1 year. No band has done that. Nobody does that. Back in the 60s they did it.
Yeah.
Nowadays they don't. Because let's face it, most bands put a record out and they wait 3, 4, 5 years to put another record out. We've consistently put out strong records every single year, and I think the fans really appreciate it. And I certainly like putting new records out there as well. It's only fitting that you put a new record out and you go out on tour.
Yeah, I truly appreciate that as a fan. And I was actually going to ask you about some of the releases, but there was this one, the Beatles covers album thing. We recorded some Beatles covers, some Lennon, McCartney related covers, and my question is was that something that you did for yourself because you needed to express that as a huge Beatles fan, or something that you wanted to do because you wanted to introduce the Beatles to the people who usually like enough music? Or what was the whole thing with that? I'm just curious.
We made the Beatle record because we've always wore that tattoo proudly on our arm.
Okay.
And it's only fitting that we do a record of songs and bands that have left an indelible mark with us musically through our childhood up to adulthood. And make no mistake, we're not a tribute band. It's a reinterpretation of Beatles songs from 1967 through 1970 of the Beatles when they were really experimenting with music. And we took a real hands-on rock approach to that album, where we recorded the record first, and then we went to a really good analog mixer named Chris Steinman's over at Stonecutter Studios on the north side of Chicago, and he put it all together for us, helped us navigate those tracks. And it's a great record that I think that those songs really translate live, and it's almost as if we turned those Beatles songs into our own.
Yeah.
And now we put them in the set, and when you come see an Enough's Enough show, you get the hits like Baby Loves You and New Thing and Fly Michelle, along with Magical Mystery Tour and Eleanor Rigby and Live and Let Die and Jet. And I think people really love that.
That's really cool.
It's a whole set full of hits.
And the one you were talking about your releases, I was just listening to the Clown's Lunch stuff, some of the stuff that I have listened through the years, in the box set stuff, and all this. You have all the box set, the 1985 album back then, and then the Clown's Lunch thing, and I was wondering to myself, how many unreleased tracks do you still have? Do you still have them? It's insane. It's like complete albums that are unreleased, and then
I'd like to believe we're one of the most, without sounding immodest, I'd like to believe that we're one of the most profound, maybe, or prolific bands that's out there as far as material goes. Not many bands have recorded over 200 songs and released them. Those songs that we just recently released, the 3 album set of the demos and rarities, and Clown's Lounge, were never to see the light of day. We didn't feel they were up to snuff back 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And then times have changed. Frontiers reached out to us and said, we want to do a special record. would you be interested in putting it out? We want it to sound like the first album. And I said, forget about it. The first record cost fucking $80,000 to make.
Yes.
We can't do that. We're not going to do it to the fans and be disrespectful. And they said, well, just give us the best stuff that you got and let us take a listen to it. So I did. I talked to Donnie V, asked him how he felt about it. He said that stuff maybe is not as strong as our earlier stuff. I said, we're in a different day and age right now. The fans want to hear stuff that's special, that's unreleased.
Yeah, sure, of course.
That they get a chance to really sink their teeth into and hear the band in the early stage of our career when we were young kids. And songs are like embryos. It's the beginning of a relationship.
Yeah, sure.
Sometimes you don't want to show them off. You want to hang on to it just for yourself. But I'm grateful that Frontiers loved the record and we were able to put it out, and Donnie and I could come up with an agreement where we can release those songs and put a smile on the fans' faces and hold them over for new records. Same thing with the demos and unreleased songs. We did a deal with a label called Cleopatra in the United States, and they said, we want all your stuff that you've released in the past. We want to put it all out. Frontiers never asked us that. They just wanted new, fresh material. So I put those songs together, wrote a little box set, and put little messages in there, a little discography on how the songs were created and when we did it and at what time. And that seemed to do very well for us as well. So we probably won't be playing a lot of those songs live in concert, but it's a nice little special treat for the fans to have.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Enuff Snuff in its early inception.
That's brilliant. And then you just mentioned, well, I mean, one of the questions that I had here was like, the question was like Donnie V. And I mean, I have 1,000 questions about this, but I'm trying to sum it up. I was just listening to the latest album. I mean, of course, when you put together this like new version of it, I was one of the guys who was thinking, I don't know, like Enough's enough without Donnie. I didn't like it. But then when I first listened to the first album you released, I thought, this is fucking amazing. Then you start releasing all these new albums, and it's like a complete new version of the band. And so my question is, like, do you feel like you have like your own version of Enough's Enough, like, and you're like, how are you gonna I don't know how to put this together, but what if he comes up and he said, hey, I'd like to make a tour, like he said something in an interview about that. I'd like to tour with Chip like in the upcoming future, but just the two of us with some hired musicians and have our own version of it. Is there any way you can guys like get together and steal the stuff? Because he recorded a song for the Brainwash Generation album, and that was really cool. But I still do believe that your new, concept of Enough's Enough is brilliant. So I mean, how do you cope with that? Is it do you leave an open door for that, or I mean, is it just like you're gonna keep the thing on your own?
Are you married?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're in a marriage, it takes a lot of work.
Definitely.
And it doesn't always last forever. We want it to. Who gets into a marriage and looks at it as failure? That word's not in your vocabulary when you get married. You want it to last forever.
Forever.
I'm married too. I love my wife beyond belief, even though I leave her for fucking 3 months at a time to go on tour. We went for 29 years. When Peter Gabriel left Genesis, was the band going to stop all of a sudden? No.
No.
Phil Collins goes, I'll sing the songs. And he went out and did it. And
it was amazingly
Genesis.
awesome.
It's a new rendition of the band. It's still carrying the same legacy of what we were about in the beginning. It's like a marriage is. You get a new wife and you go, that first marriage was fantastic. It was wonderful. We had some great memories. And let's retain that and hang on to that. And that's what I do with Donnie and I. He comes out and he does a song on the record, and it's fantastic. I'll never be able to sing like he does. He's a fabulous singer and a great songwriter. But those songs are already out there. I can't expect him to get into a van and travel around the country thousands of miles away like I'm doing. I'm crazy to do this.
He might
it's too hard for him to do that.
Yeah,
I don't have a substance abuse problem. I don't have to deal with any of that stuff. My health up to this point has been good. God's blessed me beyond belief. And I can still travel around the country and sing every single night, and the fans can hear these songs, and that's important. Whether he comes back again to do some other songs on the record, I play on the solo record, Beautiful Things, a wonderful record. His albums solo sound a lot different than Enuff Snuff as well, just like my stuff does. But I think that I've retained the sound of Enuff Snuff. I'm half of that sound, and when people hear it, they go, "That's the band. They sound great." And when you look back in hindsight at what we did in the early days and compared to right now, I think the band is really strong. We come out every single night. The shows are good. The songs are still there. You can celebrate the beginning of when we put the band together up to right now. It's still fresh and new. I'd like to keep changing. I don't want to keep it all the same all the time, but we do celebrate those early moments in our show of the Enuff Snuff catalog because people know us from that, and that I cherish those memories. They're fantastic. But I think that I don't want to confuse motion with progress. I want to move forward. I want to play shows. And when I put together Enuff Snuff, when Donnie left the band, his exact words to me was, if you're going to carry on the name Enuff Snuff, you sing the fucking songs. At least people will know it's Enuff Snuff, and that's what I've done.
Yeah, one thing that I felt when that happened was, like a lot of people said to me, like, yeah, I hated when the Beatles, like older people, no older than I said, I hated when the Beatles broke up. And I'm like, well, they broke up, they stopped playing together, but you got all the Paul McCartney solo albums and all the John Lennon solo albums. And at least, I mean, the good thing that came out of that was that they remain releasing music separately, and so that's the way I see it. But it's really, really cool. I mean,
yeah, that was a different day and age back then too. They were able to do that. Enuff Snuff was never big like the Beatles. We were never big like Queen or Led Zeppelin or the big bands that we grew up listening to every single day. So I needed to go out there and keep the name Enuff Snuff out there because I believe in the legacy of that band. And just like Genesis moved on and moved forward, I'm sure that if I had a solo record out and it had commercial success, maybe I just go out and tour as Chips Enuff. Yeah. I never thought about that. I like the concept of a band.
Okay, totally. And by the way, I love your solo albums. Really amazing, both of them as well. So I have a couple more questions. This is a personal thing. There's a song on Clown's Lunch that's The Devil of Shakespeare. I was arguing with a friend of mine. I say that the guy singing there is Jenny Lane. My friend says he's not. He's the other guy. Is he Jenny Lane?
Well, you're right. Jenny Lane came out. It's one of the last recordings he did before he passed away. Great friend of mine. He took a red eye into Chicago to sing on this song. I was doing the song for a guy named Billy McCarthy for his book, The Devil of Shakespeare. And the concept of the book was he's writing a story on the Devil of Shakespeare, and he wanted to have one song in there. So I wrote it with him called The Devil of Shakespeare, the title of the book. And then we said, well, let's get Robin Zander from Cheap Trick to come down and sing on it. So we went down to see Robin Zander, and I handed him $3,000. I said, here, we want you to sing on the track. All you got to do is sing on the choruses. And Robin goes, that's great. And his manager from down the hall seen it, a guy named Dave Fry. And he came over, he goes, hey, what are you guys talking about? Real nosy guy, and he's just doing his manager job, I understand.
Yeah.
And Robin goes, I'm going to sing a song for these guys, and he goes, give him the money back, and Robin handed the money back, and he says, let's hear the song first before we make a decision how we're going to do it. We said, okay, no problem. Sent the song to Robin again. The manager said, yeah, we don't have time right now to do it. We're going to have to pass on this, which I thought was a real snaky move to do that.
Horrible.
I was disappointed in it because I love Robin Zander. I believe he's a very good friend of mine. So we said, okay, let's take another approach. And the next guy we thought about is Janie Lane. So we asked Janie to sing on. He goes, I'd love to do it. He took the red eye into Chicago, showed him about midnight at the recording studio, a place called Star Tracks in Crestwood, Illinois. He walked into the room. He goes, oh, Chip, you produced this? I go, yep, I co-wrote the song. I'm producing the record. He says, can you do me a favor? I don't want to be Janie Lane on the song. I want to sing it. I want to take like a David Bowie approach. I said, whatever you want to do, buddy.
Okay.
Just go ahead and sing on it. So he sang on it, but there's no denying as soon as you hear his pipes, you know it's Janie Lane. He's got his own timbre. And he's wonderful voice, beautiful.
My friend was telling me, I don't think he's Janie Lane. And
it's like, Janie Lane on the whole track.
I told him, dude, I mean, I can tell it's him because I'm a huge fan. So,
Yeah, absolutely, Janie Lane. One of the last recordings he's ever done. After he did that and he passed away, his management came up to me and said, Jay, the family wants to know how Janie's going to get paid for it. I said, we already paid him. He's already been paid. Everybody's just trying to get money when someone dies, And it was disrespectful to even ask me. I would never do anything like that.
Jesus, man.
Be against the family's wishes. And his brother loved it. His brother was fantastic. His brother goes, oh, I'm so happy to have my brother on this track with you guys singing on it. And then when we had Celebration of Life in Los Angeles at the Key Club, his brother's family invited Donnie and I to come out and sing, and we sang Let It Be, which was Janie Lane's favorite song. Whole place was sold out, jam-packed. People loved it. It was a wonderful celebration saying goodbye to a great lead singer-songwriter who the world misses, and he sold millions of records. So I think he left an indelible mark, and God rest his soul. Hopefully, the fans look back and they go, we get to have these songs. Because I know when it's all said and done, whoever the singer's going to be, Freddie Mercury, whoever it was, somebody that we all love, I embrace the memories that I get from those guys because we're not going to get it again.
So two more questions, and that's it. Do you think, probably this was already asked you, but I mean, do you think that Enuff could have been like a lot bigger had they been out like in the mid '90s? Because when you guys came out, a lot of people related you guys with the hair metal bands and stuff like that. But definitely, I mean, I don't know, that's my take on this. But if you ask me, I see Enuff as like some sort of like Cheap Trick, like you guys carry like the Cheap Trick flag, stuff like that. Which in the '90s, it's not that Cheap Trick style came back, but what happened was like you had a lot of cool bands like Fountains of Wayne, Fastball, all those power pop bands.
Love them. Love all those bands. Jellyfish. Great
Jellyfish
bands.
as well.
All the bands you're naming are friends, not only friends of mine, but wonderful players and great songwriters. I love those bands. We were out a little bit before most of those guys, though, that you just mentioned. We've been out since 1984. When I put the band together, I was 15, 16, 17 years old then. So I look back at hindsight and I say, well, the guys in Guns N' Roses said to me, if Enuff Snuff came out in '86, '87, we'd be fucking massive. Maybe it's if you look at a crystal ball, I don't have one, perhaps you might be right. If it came out in the '90s, perhaps it would be a different trajectory for Enuff Snuff. But remember, when we came out, the first record went gold. New Thing, Fly, Michelle hits.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Second album came out, Baby Loves You, did really good for us. Mother's Eyes was a single for us.
I have
did
the single.
good, they charted. And then we had a change of the guard in the music industry. No one knows that MTV had meetings behind closed doors and said, we're going to bring in a different kind of music. It's going to be called grunge, and it's going to be Alice in Chains, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, and all that stuff that whipped everybody's asses, and a lot of those bands went away. I've been blessed enough by the good Lord to stay moving forward and keep playing music and making records, and that's it. So I could never answer that question. It would have been bigger if we started earlier or if we started later. All I know is I started when I did, and here I am in 2022, still touring around the country, still making records, and still embracing the fans every single night with my music.
Definitely. I wish I could. I wish I could have done that with my life. So, one more last question. That is, what's the future hold for Enuff's Enuff? What's in mind?
I don't envision it ending. I don't know what the future. As I've said before, failure's not in my vocabulary, even though I just said the word. Perhaps it means we can get it right the next time. I just want to make records and go out and tour around the country. And at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, I'm not here anymore. You get the legacy of those songs and what I've left behind. And I'm happy with that.
Dude, thank you so much for this.